you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Moore
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. It is NHL Trade Deadline. He's Pierre, McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. Buckle up. We already got two big trades in the last 24 hours, and the Carolina Hurricanes, Pierre, appear to be going for it.
Yeah, for sure they are, Jimmy. And nice to visit with you this championship Friday here in college hockey.
That's
for
right.
Some of the leagues, and obviously trade deadline for all the NHL teams and players. You know, getting Evgeny Kuznetsov and obviously having Jake Gensel late last night into early this morning. Carolina seemingly going for it. The big question the people in Pittsburgh have, and I'm not talking about management people, but friends of mine that are around the team, will Jake Gensel be re-signed by Carolina? And if he's not, does Jake Gensel end up going back to Pittsburgh? So it's an interesting situation right now.
Interesting. Hey, that's a possibility, and I'll tell you that someone I spoke to today felt as if he was going to go to market, so that could happen. But the one thing I asked Pierre, and you were the first one to point this out, right, is when it comes down to negotiating, if he was to go back there, he's going to have to take a pay cut, isn't he? Not a pay cut, but a pay cut from what his value could be on the open market. I'm
just going to tell all our listeners and viewers again, if you're the agent for Jake Gensel, you're using William Nylander as a comparable.
Exactly.
And you're probably winning on the comparable. I mean, I can tell you right now, I was involved in trying to do Brady Tkachuk's contract, and we used Svechnikov in Carolina as a comparable. And the numbers were almost identical. And eventually, Newport Sports was able to get more money for Brady Tkachuk because we needed him. But the real comparable was Svechnikov.
Yeah.
In terms of numbers.
Exactly.
And so I'm just telling you that if Jake's agents are, as Paul says, I believe they are, they're going to use Nylander, and it's going to be a difficult negotiation.
Let me ask you this, Pierre, and we'll get to the trades. We'll run through the trades that are going on, have happened in the last 24 hours in a second. But in terms of, if he goes to market, right, and let's say for argument's sake, you're Rob Blake. The LA Kings want to sign him, okay? Does LA use the fact that he played with Sidney Crosby and that he's not going to be playing with Crosby against him? Can they use that in negotiating tactics, or is that not smart?
That would be not wise, because basically you're demeaning the player.
That's what I figured.
So I personally would not go down that road. If I want to start a long-term relationship with somebody, I'm going to tell them they're the best looking thing in the history of the world. I'm not going to tell them they're ugly as sin and I don't want to be around them. So, that's just how it works. So I don't think they go down that road. Now, realistically, you can say in a negotiation, I'm saying, we have players like Sidney Crosby, but nobody is Sidney Crosby.
Right.
And so you can do it a different way.
You think they're realistic, knowing that his numbers could go down a bit, considering, and that you just inside their head, not saying it, but they must know.
I think realistically, yeah, sure they could, but that's not how you negotiate. As you know, that's just.
I hear you.
But to be fair, it's not a bad thought. Here's what I'd say about Carolina right now. They haven't had a very good year compared to what they thought they were going to have. Part of it is they haven't been scoring very easy. They don't have game breakers. Gensel can be perceived as a game breaker. And if Kuznetsov gets it back on the rails, he is a game breaker.
Oh, yeah. Remember him in the playoffs in 2018? If they could ever find that in them, oh, my gosh.
I said to Jimmy before we came on, I said, listen, I know people are kind of looking at Kuznetsov and punching him in the pants a little bit because of all the off-ice stuff. He's been down in the American League. He's tasted fast food and diesel fumes.
Yep.
That's not like a charter aircraft in the Four Seasons. So I'm just telling you right now, once you get a little humble pie, you never want to get that again. Yeah. And I think you're getting a motivated guy there. I don't really think that's a bad acquisition for Carolina. And look at what they traded for Gensel. Bunting was doing nothing there. Bunting was persona non grata. We talked about it on this show about 2 weeks ago, saying Carolina has no time for this guy. Yeah. And they didn't. They made a mistake. They rectified the mistake, and they moved him along. And just so everybody understands, we connect the dots here. Michael Bunting played for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds when Sheldon Keefe was coaching there, and You know who the general manager was. He's now the general manager in Pittsburgh, Kyle Dubas. So I'm just telling you, when they got him from Arizona and Toronto, they knew the player. When he left and went to Carolina, Dubas was gone. He was gone to Pittsburgh. Carolina signed him. So you just have to connect the dots. That's the only real NHL player they got. The prospects they got, I will tell you, have a chance to play. Will any of them be instantaneous, huge impact players? No, they won't. No, they won't.
Okay.
But you got to be fair, too. They all have a chance to play. All
That's good.
So that's the positive for Pittsburgh because they need players.
For sure. And of course, they got got 3 prospects and a conditional first-round pick in 2024 and a conditional 5th in 2024 as well. All right, Pierre. So we talked about that. There was another trade last night as well after we were off the air, and that was Anthony Duclair in a 7th-round pick in 2025 go to Tampa Bay Lightning for defenseman Jack Thompson, and 2024 3rd-round pick to the San Jose Sharks. Pierre, do you know anything about this Jack Thompson?
Not enough. Not enough to really say, 100% I can tell you he's going to play, or 100% no, he's not going to play. So not enough. I will put the trust in the scouts led by Tim Burke in San Jose, knowing who the player is and just where his development is at this point in his career. In terms of Anthony going to Tampa, if Tampa plays more games like they did last night, they're not making the playoffs anyways. Whether they get Anthony Duclair or Sidney Crosby, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, they stunk last night.
Yeah, they did.
If they play like that again, they're not making the playoffs because the New York Islanders will catch them.
They're coming. They're coming. Nobody's talking about that. They are
coming right now. The Islanders will catch them. That's as bad as Tampa can play, and I can't think John Cooper was very happy about that.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the New York Islanders, Pierre, because I'm going to say one of my guys that one of my GMs that I'm focused on today is Lou Lamoriello. You know how stealth he can be. You know how he can come in and drop out of nowhere, get the guy he needs. And now that his team is only 2 points out, do you think if they hadn't been thinking about making a major move, do you think maybe they pivot a bit, given where the team is and the momentum they have right now?
So here's what I'd say about Lou. Lou has a plan for every situation. He's got a 5-year plan. He's got a 3-year plan. He's got a 2-year plan. He's got a 6-month plan. I'm telling you, he's talked to me about it.
He's got an immediate plan, huh?
He's got a 2-day plan. He's got a plan. I'm telling you, orchestrated beyond belief. So everybody in the hockey world gets surprised by his moves, Jimmy. The problem is he never surprises himself.
Yeah.
He knows what he's very meticulous and calculated. I know fans are getting on him because obviously things haven't gone as well as they thought they would there, but he's got a plan. And so I would just tell you this. I will never forget a massive trade he made. And I saw him the next day. And he pulled me aside and he said, "You didn't think I'd do this, did you?" I said, "Not a chance."
Would that trade involve a guy with the initials IK?
Yes.
And he's Russian? Yes, I thought so.
And I'll never forget him pulling me aside. We were at an event together, and he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you." And I kind of knew where he was going. He said, "You had no idea." I said, "No, I had no idea."
I'll tell you this, Pierre. It's funny you bring that up. I was driving on the road on Route 89 North. You know that road well, up to Canada, to Montreal, and I get a call from an NHL GM that had also been trying to acquire that player. We could say the player, right? Kovalchuk.
Sure,
we okay?
right.
Yeah, Kovalchuk. And he says, "Damn that, Lou. Every bleeping time. And he just knew. He knew he was going to come in and get him. He's like, I had a feeling, and he did it. I knew it.
Well, one of the guys that was in that trade was a kid named Pascal Cormier. And
Yes.
he played World Junior for Canada. And I'm telling you right now, like when he came out, he was almost considered a can't miss. I'm not kidding you.
I remember that.
He was strong. He was powerful. He could score goals. He could really stabilize a game physically. For whatever reason, it never worked.
Yeah.
Never, ever worked. And I know
It happens.
when Atlanta got, 100% it happened.
Yep.
When Atlanta got him, they were like, whew, we got a good player here. And for whatever reason, it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Too bad. All right. So, Pierre, one more thing, and we're going to open it up early to questions because we got to be out of here by noon pronto, maybe even a little earlier. You got to get going for your broadcast there for the ECAC playoffs, and I've got to get down to the Bruins locker room. One more thing, too, speaking of the Bruins, Pierre, the chatter around Linus Ullmark has picked up again today. I just put it up on Boston Hockey Now. A good source is telling me that the New Jersey Devils are not in on him as we speak right now. That could change in the next few hours, but as of now, they have pulled back on him. The feel is that, they're still circling back, trying to get Markstrom from Calgary, but we'll see what happens there. But one team that's coming up now, Pierre, and I heard it from a few people today, not you, is the team you've been saying, and that is the Colorado Avalanche, have entered the fray when it comes to Linus Ullmark. And another team I'm hearing, but I don't think it would happen because they're in the division, is the Detroit Red Wings. But they are looking for a goalie. They have poked around on him, but I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
I can't see Boston trade him in the division. Now, it doesn't mean they won't. Maybe they want asset value, and Ullmark should have pretty substantial.
But they could place him in the first round, Pierre. You don't want to do that.
No, that's what I mean. So, what I'd say about Colorado right now, I think you can see by adding Yakov Trenin, by adding Brandon Duhaime, they've made a statement.
Tough.
We're getting big, we're getting fast, and we're getting mean.
Yep.
So they got enough. They know they got firepower. They're loading up for 7 games and 6-game series. That you can see what Brian McFarland or what Joe Sakic and McFarland are doing there. Brian, I get it. I totally get what they're doing there.
Yep.
And what's the one thing they need still?
Yeah.
They need to stabilize their goaltending.
They do.
I still think they're in the market for a goalie.
And, of course, the other team that keeps coming up, we've said it numerous times, is the Kings with Ullmark. The one thing I should point out, though, Pierre, from what I'm told, Ullmark has a 16-team no-trade list, right?
Right.
The majority of those teams are in the Western Conference. I don't know who they are, but the majority of the teams that he won't go to are out west. So how much that plays a role in any potential discussions with Colorado or LA, we will see, or maybe we'll never know, but it could. I'm just putting it out there that could factor in there.
The big recruiting tool you have in a situation like that, in Colorado, you have Gabriel Landeskog. And you're a Swedish, I can just tell you, I'll give you an example.
He's a legend back there, eh?
Yeah, I'm just going to give you an example of how this works. Daniel Alfredson should have started his career and finished his career in Ottawa. He didn't finish his career in Ottawa. He finished his career in Detroit. And you know what happened? He got a phone call from a guy named Nick Lidstrom. And so when a Swedish high-end player calls you as a player and say, hey, you should come here, we got it going on, those kids listen. They listen. And I would say the one key in the game that Colorado has that a lot of teams don't have, they have Gabriel Landeskog.
That's a great point.
If you want a Swedish player, you use him as a recruiting mechanism, and it works.
And they've got a legit shot at winning the Stanley Cup, and that's going to be attractive as well.
How could it not be? Last I checked, Linus Ullmark hasn't gotten out of the first round of the playoffs in his career.
Exactly. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, Pierre, before we go to comments, though, I wanted to do one quick thing here on Trade Deadline Day, by the way, and welcome to our listeners and viewers picking up there in the comments room. I see you filtering in. Give me maybe, and I know there's so many, whether it's your most memorable, your most comical, your most Murphy's Law type day. What has been your craziest trade deadline day in your head?
Well, it was when Pittsburgh got Marian Hossa.
Oh, yeah.
They traded away a significant amount. Colby Armstrong was in that trade. Angelo Esposito was in that trade. Eric Christensen was in that trade. I'm just, again, going off the top of my head. And it pained me to have to say, I don't agree with this deal. Because I knew how good a player Hossa was, and I knew what Pittsburgh was in their development, and how, people say, well, William Colby Armstrong was an important player around that team because of his relationship with all the guys. They all loved Colby a lot. They respected him and really liked him. And I knew Marion was coming in as a different type of player. And so when they made that deal, I kind of poo-pooed. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I saw my phone ring as soon as we were off the air, and it was probably my best friend in hockey, Ray Sherrill, who was the GM in Pittsburgh. And we had a frank discussion. We really did. And the way he handled it, I've always respected him, but after that, I respected him even more.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to share all of it with you, but it was frank, it was to the point, it was passionate. And when it was all said and done, we agreed to get together and talk it out more face to face.
All right. Sorry there. I'm just checking to see if Mr. Elmark is on the ice here at Warrior Arena. No goalies out there yet, but Pierre, that doesn't surprise me about Ray Shero, and it also reminds me too, and it's one thing we have to keep in mind. I mean, we got to do our jobs, on this deadline day, but the human element is something I think, and it's understandable. It gets forgotten in the madness that is the trade deadline. So just for fans out there, keep that in mind too, what goes on there, and appreciate how hard it is sometimes for some of these GMs to trade certain players just because of the relationships they form and the relationships they have within that dressing room. So something to keep in mind.
I remember when Pittsburgh traded Mark Recchi and Paul Caulfield, as emotional as I've ever been in my life, just because of the relationship you have with the two guys. And then the next day you go and pick up Shel Samuelson and Rick Tocchet at the airport, and all that emotion
becomes happiness.
Swept away, because you see what those guys can bring to your team. So as much as you miss the other guys, you're excited to have the new guys.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Pierre, just in your experience, I imagine maybe with rookies or really young players, they take it a little personal, but is there a point where players get in their career where they understand, and more so now in the cap era, that this is just a business and it's a business move, it's not a personal move?
One of the coolest things I ever was a part of, we traded, Brian Burke traded him. We were part of the staff. Paul Holmgren and I and Kevin McCarthy traded Murray Craven to Vancouver. Murray was an amazing professional. I'm just telling you, he was an amazing professional, fantastically smart hockey person, and was our best player my first year in Hartford. By a mile, he was our best player. And a real gentleman. And we traded him for Jimmy Sandlak and Robert Cron. And Cron and Sandlak came in and made a big difference for our team. They really did. They helped us a lot over the next year and a half as a group. But I remember how much of a gentleman Murray was. You talk about the veteran guy. The way he handled it was fantastic. And he went to Vancouver and did really, really well with them.
I wound up meeting him after he had retired. Seemed like a great guy. Classic.
Yeah, think about it. In '94, went to the Stanley Cup final with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yep.
I mean, think about it.
It worked out good for him.
It did. It worked out. But the way he handled it was a great example of professionalism. And I'll always remember that from Murray. Always.
Good stuff. Let's look at it right now. Just coming across the wire, Jordan Eberle has re-signed in Seattle, 2 years with a $4.75 million cap hit and a no movement clause. Pierre, let's open it up to our listeners right now and get to these questions here on NHL Trade Deadline Day. What do we got, guys? From at Rick1042, what kind of message does this trade send to Kotkaniemi? Good question.
You know what I would say? What kind of message does it send to ownership? They're the ones that put their foot in the pool. They wanted to play games with Montreal.
Yep.
They did it.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. This has been in the back of my head for the last couple of days, Pierre. Do you think he could move?
I don't think anybody's taking that money.
Nobody's taking him because you get him at a major discounted price right now. I'll tell you that.
You still got to take the money.
Yeah, still got to. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yep. He's stuck in Carolina. All right, next question. Jeffrey B. Are you surprised we haven't seen the Oilers get some goaltending insurance that supports Stuart Skinner in the playoffs? I am too, but I don't think they're going to.
No, I don't think they are either. Troy Stetcher, by the way, I know it's under the radar a little bit.
Yep.
That's a good pickup.
He's a good depth pickup for sure.
Kid. He had a great career at Penticton V's. He had an awesome career in North Dakota. I know, he's moved around a lot. He's a bit undersized, but he's a character player, and that's a subtle little pickup. He's got good mobility too. And remember, Edmonton lost Ethan Bear a couple years ago. It's a subtle little pickup for a mobile defenseman. So I like that kind of a depth move, but it's a good depth move for Edmonton on Troy Stetcher.
I like it as well. And just, for the record, people saying yesterday, so a couple insiders saying that the Oilers are very content with their defensive structure via analytics right now. I don't like the sound of that, but that's their prerogative. They can go forward with that. So, next question. Okay, Randy Workman, if the Flames do add today, will the Flames add today after they killed the Bolts? That's a good question. I mean, do the Flames add? They've got the momentum going, Pierre. I know they've been subtracting, but could they just maybe bring another guy in?
I thought they did add by bringing Matt Coronado up from the American Hockey League. Remember I asked Eric France about him?
Exactly.
He had a goal last night, and I think he'll continue to score goals. He's a tremendous player. I understand what they were doing. They wanted to get seasoning in the American League. He was almost a point-a-game player in the American League. I'm a huge fan of the player, huge fan of the kid. Believe me, he was a marked guy all last year, his second year at Harvard, and he physically got abused playing college hockey. And I never saw a kid battle through stuff like he had to battle through. I think he's going to be a very good NHL player. So you talk about adding. They added internally by bringing him up. I like that. I think it's really good.
I'm with you, Pierre. I'm with you. All right, let's go to the next question here. How problematic is it for Dubas that Philly got back a first for Walker, Anaheim got back a first for Henrique, but Pittsburgh got what amounts to a conditional second for Gensel? Am I being too critical?
No, you're not.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think you are. I don't even know if you're being critical. So maybe he wanted Bunting. He might have wanted Bunting just because he has a relationship with Bunting. And they needed to get somebody to play in the wing with Sid that can get points. Maybe they're excited about the prospects because they're kind of bare prospect-wise. So, to be fair, I think all three of those prospects have a legitimate chance of playing at some point. I don't know how long they'll play. Nobody knows how long they'll play, but I think they'll have a legitimate chance. It's not like they swung and they missed. But if Carolina doesn't win the Cup, that draft pick,
maybe they swung and missed. Yeah.
That draft pick changes for Pittsburgh. I mean, for them to get first, they got to win the Cup. I don't know.
We talk about goaltending too, Pierre. That's another team. I'm not secure with that goaltending heading into playoffs. You got a guy in Anderson that, just coming back now. He's got to still be shaking off the rust. And then, to be frank, he hasn't been that great when he was healthy. I'm a little iffy on that goaltending there. The rookie there, I always murder his name, the Russian. Porchenkov. He's going to be the X factor, I think. I mean, if he can do it, then they'll be fine. But if he can't, they're in some trouble, if you ask me.
I would agree.
Yeah. All right.
They had to address offense, and they did it. So I give Donnie Waddell credit for that. And I do think, because I know people are looking at Kuznetsov off ice. I get it. I totally understand. I see why people do that. But I think he's a player that's going to play guilty.
I loved it. I like that call, too. He's motivated. All right, next question. You only get so many runs left with Marchand and Passer in their prime. Should the Bruins move a few prospects for a forward depth today? It's a valid point. I think Passer's got plenty more left than Marchand. He's only 26. But I get it. Honestly, I feel like they will add, but I don't think they're going to go nuts and swing for the fences. I think it's going to be like we've been saying. It's going to be money in, money out, and hopefully the ones coming in can contribute more than the ones going out.
Jimmy, how close is Hampus Lindholm to come back and play?
He is on the ice again today. He skated again before practice, so I think he's getting there. I would think he's in by next week. You know what? They play the Montreal Canadiens. They play Pittsburgh tomorrow. I don't think he'll play tomorrow. They play St. Louis on Monday. I think either Monday or Thursday next week in Montreal. We'll be next week. We'll get to that in a bit. I think he comes back one of those games.
So that's like a trade.
That's like a trade addition. Yeah, that's an addition right there.
That's a big one right there. The fact that he's coming back is great before the playoffs. Get his sea legs underneath him. Remember this too, and Jimmy, the Bruins aren't overwhelmingly stocked with forward talent with prospects. They're just not.
No, they're not. That's the problem.
And so that's the issue. Everybody wants to make deals, but they're not overly stacked. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and I think that's why we keep saying money in, money out. So that's the only way they can do it. It's going to be bodies. Bodies are going to move, I would imagine, here. All right, let's go to the next question. Randy Workman, Red Wings should go after Markstrom. Hey,
I think you're right, Randy, but
I think they're right. We know they love their Swedes.
and they've got yeah, they do. And they got plenty of prospects. I mean, Calgary clearly wants to have prospects. Heard Eric Francis yesterday on our show, who was fantastic, talking about where Calgary is. Their management team knows where they are. They know exactly where they are.
They do. All right, let's go to the next question. If we got one. We might not have one here. And that's we do. Evan McLaren, there's our man. Gensel can push for $11 million, but there's a report out there he was looking more in the $9 million range. You combine that with the expiring Carter, and bingo, there's your $9.1 million doable. Evan says, good point.
Oh, no, it is. That's not the issue though, because once you leave Pittsburgh and you go to free agency, every team in the league can talk to you. All it takes is one team to blow that $9 million out of the water. And don't think there won't be teams that will try to load up. And I don't know if who's going to want to spend that money, especially if you look at an older Carlson, an older Letang, and an older Malcolm. Do they realistically think? I think this was a year Kyle Dubas thought they were going to win or have a chance to win.
Yeah.
Right now, it doesn't look like they have a chance to make the playoffs.
Well, we'll see what's going on. I mean, that's another thing too, Pierre. That's great that you brought that up too. How much does the direction that they go in, affect? Okay, does Gensel want to be around for that? I mean, why am I going to sign back in Pittsburgh if they're going into a rebuild?
Yeah, don't forget he's from Minnesota. I mean, there's a lot. Not saying he's going to Minnesota.
So many things that could happen.
There's so many. Look at Tyler Toffoli. I thought Tyler Toffoli would end up in Vancouver when they didn't get Jake Gensel. But now he's in Winnipeg. So if you look at that Winnipeg Jets lineup right now offensively, holy moly, man, they're going to score a whack of goals. I mean, so I just thought Toffoli would end up in Vancouver. Maybe Vancouver's just shut down now. They had the apple of their eye was Gensel. They didn't get him, and so they shut down.
Nice move there by the Jets, too. That's a great pickup.
They really haven't gone big game hunting at the deadline in a while.
Yeah.
That's a very, very good pickup.
He's such a good playoff player. He's such a good person in the locker room. That's a great pickup for that Winnipeg Jets team. I like that.
They don't have a lot of Stanley Cup winners in that room.
Yeah.
You get to Foley, he should walk right in with his big ring and say, "How you doing, fellas?"
See this, boys? Let me tell you how you get there.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, Pierre, by the way, that I think now leaves 2 teams in Canada left for him to play for. He's played for 4 Canadian teams now, correct?
Yeah.
So there you go. Winnipeg, Vancouver, Calgary, and the Habs.
Yeah, and he played junior in Ottawa for the 67s. So he's kind of been
maybe that's next. There you go. Book it to Foley. Breaking news to the Senators in free agency. All right, here we go. Next question. A to Z me. Since I was a kid watching hockey, I noticed that teams that add a lot at the deadline usually never get anywhere. What are your thoughts on the Canes adding so many pieces?
Well,
I do agree with that sometimes. It's more the subtle pickups that lead to cups, in my opinion, but I'll let you take that.
You don't want to break down the fabric of your team if you're a good team going to the playoffs. Sometimes if you add 2 players, that's fine. If you add more than 2, it's a problem. It changes the dynamic of the chemistry of your team. If you come out of the deadline and you're playing well, when you come out of the deadline and those players you picked up are really playing well, it works.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, it's hard because then guys say, well, what about the guy that used to be here? We were having problems when he was here. So, I mean, I look at it right now. Gensel's not going to cause a problem in the dressing room in Carolina. No chance. So the wild card is Kuznetsov.
Yes.
He's the wild card.
But I love what you're saying right now. I mean, if this guy wants to continue to have a really successful NHL career, this is his chance to shut a lot of people up right now. This is his chance to prove that he's matured and he can do this. And I don't see why he won't.
And don't forget one thing. His former teammate in Washington, Dmitry Orlov, is down there. You know what I mean, Jimmy?
That's right. Yep.
And so there's a relationship there. I wouldn't be surprised if Donnie Waddell or Rod Brindamore talked to Orlov before they got Kuznetsov saying, okay, can you help him? Where's he at? What do you think? That happens more than you think when management people or coaches go to player and say, okay, this guy's had some issues. What do you think? Is he a lost cause, or can we help him out? And I know that Orlov was a real steady player in Washington and a respected guy there. And you know him from his time in Boston. Wasn't there long, but he was there. I mean, I'd like to think, I hope that somebody in Carolina talked to him before they got Kuznetsov.
I'll tell you, Pierre, he is your stereotypical tough, serious Russian.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I took from him when he was here. I mean, when the mics are off, it's smile. But when he got in front of that mic with us, he's just like business, and that's how he was on the ice too.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yep. All right, let's go to the next question. 87 Eagles. Hey guys, what's the worst trade you remember being made on trade deadline day? Ooh, there's some good ones.
Yeah, there's
off the top of my head. I mean, I'll look back at. A lot of people fell in love with him here in Boston, Pierre. I didn't think, his analytics were good, but when you really looked at his game, you did the eye test, I did not think Tyler Bertuzzi was as good as he appeared to some people here. And I think we saw some of that in the first half of this season. He's gotten better as of late, but I felt like maybe the Bruins gave a little too much up for Tyler Bertuzzi last year.
That would be one that would just be recent. On my mind.
But if you go back, you're going the way back.
All the way back, 34 years. There have been a whack of bad ones. I just can't think of which was the worst one. I don't want to do injustice to it, but just a recent one, I'd say the Bertuzzi one was questionable.
First rounder could help the Bruins right now.
No kidding. Well, that's what they need. If there's a flaw in their writing right now, it's that. They just don't have a lot of prospects or first rounders.
I agree. All right, let's go to the next question. Do you think the Canucks are good enough here?
They are if Thatcher Demko stays healthy and Rick keeps his foot on the accelerator, talk it. Good enough to go deep in the playoffs? Yeah, I think they are. I don't see why they wouldn't be. The problem in the West is I was talking to an associate general manager in the league this morning very early, and he said you can see the arms race is on in the West, and it is. It's now become less about skill in the West and more about size and depth. We're going to have some major wars, physical battles in the first round of the playoffs. And if you can't sustain your lineup, you're not going to win in the second or the third round. So that's going to be the thing. I think it's more about keeping your guys healthy. And you saw what Colorado did. We talked about Trennan and Duhaime going into Colorado. It's not like they were brought in for their skill and dexterity. Those are hammers. Those are big, physical, fast, nasty guys. Duhaime is way undervalued, by the way. He's a undervalued player.
He's a pain in the neck, too.
Yeah, he's a tough kid. Very good penalty killer. Very good penalty killer. Very good forechecker. He's a playoff-style player.
All right, next question. Alex Ovanesky. Sorry I'm late. That's okay, Alex. If Ron Hextall makes that trade, all the grades are C's, D's, and F's. Bad return. Not guaranteed first and no top prospects. If they get a first, it might as well be a second.
I think, Alex, you're late, but we kind of were saying
We're saying the exact same thing. But, I think the Hextall treatment could be flying someone else's way in Pittsburgh soon. So we'll see what happens. All right, next question. Jeffrey B. Toffoli was just played to the Jets. Where do you see him playing on their roster? That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. They've got so much. Cole Perfetti's already kind of playing.
That's where I was up here.
Go ahead.
He's a guy I'm really interested in the postseason.
Cole's really talented kid, boy.
He just oozes breakout, doesn't he? Like
he does.
Here I am.
I coached him in a few summer tournaments when he was a kid, and he's really talented. Really, really talented. So if he ever broke out, and let's just say you move him to center, not that they need to. Look where Nick Ehlers, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, start looking at the guys. Look at the role players they have. They got a good team now, and nobody talks about. I know they do, but Josh Morrissey's really good, Jimmy. He's really good. I commend Kevin Cheveldayoff for doing this. This is a very, very substantial pickup for Winnipeg. Substantial.
Yep, I like it. Just credit to that whole team, from Cheveldayoff to the coach to everybody involved for the way that they got through last summer and last season, and you look at where they are now in terms of just the mentality, the atmosphere around the team, it's like a 180, Pierre. So, whoever was involved in turning that around and bringing in a better attitude and getting everybody on board, a credit to all those people in Winnipeg.
So, well, no, and look at, I'm not going to knock Blake Wheeler, but he had been there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Again, he moved on. He goes to the Rangers. Pierre-Luc Dubois moves on. He goes to L.A. Alex Iafallo, who they brought in, Gabe Velarde, who they brought in. Those guys just want to play in the NHL. So you're not going to have any issues at all with those guys.
Yeah.
Nemetsnikov's not going to cause you any problems. You look at it, all the guys they brought in, they're good, they're wholesome people. They fit in their dressing room. And I'm not going to take a run at any of the guys they lost. I don't think it's fair. But, again, you can't argue with the attitude that's around their group right now. It's extremely good. It's extremely good.
Well, breaking news right now from Michael Russo, who covers the Minnesota Wild, longtime writer up there with The Athletic. He is saying in the last minute, hearing Pat Maroon has been traded from the Minnesota Wild to the Boston Bruins. Well, people have been asking for the Bruins to get tougher. There you go. And you know what else he brings, Pierre? I don't think he's a fourth-line guy. But what did we talk about earlier that, cup winners can do for a team? He brings some rings.
Yeah, he's got 3 rings. He brings 3 rings into the dressing room, and 3 in a row.
Yep.
1 in St. Louis and 2 in
one against this Bruins team.
So he struts in the room. And now, okay, Pat's been hurt a lot of this season. He doesn't have an extra gear. That gear's fallen off. But he still brings big jumbo size. He's a good board player. He's a good slot player. He's not a good transition player. So you got to understand that, as a management team and a coaching staff, how you're going to deploy him. But he can create havoc in the offensive zone on the boards and in the slot.
Yep. And I'm really looking forward to the first encounter between Jack Edwards and him. But that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that another time. All right. One more question here, and then Pierre and I are going to wrap it up. What do we got here? Evan McLaren. This is going back before Dubas, but doesn't Letang's contract term seem hazardously long, paying him $6.1 million annually until he's 40? He's good, but he's not Sid.
This was all brought up when these deals were signed. I mean, yes, the answer is yes. And Christopher's gone through a lot physically, but you can't change that.
What's done is done.
I talked to somebody around their organization again early this morning, and we were talking about Carlson and Letang. And what's crazy is Letang can't pivot to his left. He just has a hard time turning to his left. And for whatever reason, he's been caught on the left side a ton recently, and I don't get it. I don't get it. What's going on there? And then if you look on the other side, Carlson, he can't turn to his right.
Yeah.
And his best days were when he was playing on the left side internationally for Sweden. I'm talking about defense. I'm not talking about skating forward. I'm talking about pivoting and going backwards. I don't understand what's going on there. But that being said, all this stuff happened way before Kyle Dubas got there. So I don't think you can blame him for any of this stuff.
No, I think you can.
There's other acquisitions and
Carlson
left that you can. But Letang's contract, you can't. That would happen way before him.
I hear you. All right, we'll do 3 more here, and then I'm headed downstairs. Alexander, does Edmonton have all the pieces to make a good run this year? I don't know if they have all the pieces yet. I think they're looking a lot better than they were last year.
You're a lot better. I just worry about the goaltending. That's my only. I just worry about the goaltending.
It's amazing how many teams we say that about, Pierre, isn't it?
Well, it's around
every year. I feel like we're saying that more and more.
Well, you guys thought in Boston you had the 2 best goalies in the league last year, and you lose in the first round.
Exactly. I know. It's just that has become the enigma of the NHL. Yep. It really has. All right, next question. What do we got here? Next question. I see one from Jeffrey B. Yep. Jeffrey B. I'm stunned they went after more speed and Duclair instead of an old defenseman.
Well, no, it's not done yet.
It's not done yet.
The deadline's not done. So they could still try to get a D. D-men just don't fall off trees. I don't think they had an appetite for Joel Edmondson. I could be wrong, but I don't think they had an appetite for Joel. I think Jimmy's been on some for a while. David Savard is somebody that who won a cup there, and I think they might have
familiarity. Yep.
But, you know, getting more speed up front never hurts any team, and I think Duclair will be super motivated to be there. Anybody getting out of San Jose, I think, would be pretty motivated.
And it's funny how he's now on the opposite side of the Sunshine State rivalry, right?
Well,
so that could be a fun series if they play.
And you know what? Be fair. I mean, when he played in Florida, he played really well.
He did. He was great in the playoffs.
He played really,
that was
really
probably
well.
the best hockey he played of his whole career.
I'm going to say the best hockey is when he played in a World Junior, and he was so good. He was a line mate with Sammy Reinhart and Max Domi.
Wow.
And that line was one of the best lines I've ever seen play for Columbus.
Was that 2013, Pierre?
No, it's later than that, I think. It's like 2015 or 16. But
okay.
That line was stupendous, like really, really good. The tournament was in Toronto and Montreal that year. That line was great, and Duclair was awesome, really good.
I actually remember too when he. Because the reason I asked was that year, because right around then I bumped into his dad one time up in Montreal, out in the West Island, because that's where he's from. He's from Point Claire. And we bumped into each other, started talking. The guy was awesome. What a great guy. And he's like, "You're the only Bruins reporter I like." I'll never forget that. I was like, "Thank you." All right. Anyhow, we got one more question here, and then we'll call it a day because Pierre and I are really busy today. Are you guys a little surprised that Hughes couldn't get rid of some bad contracts? Galley, Anderson, Armia, etc. Again, we still got just over 3 hours left, so let's see what happens.
No, but he just said it.
I don't know if I'm surprised.
No, but I mean, if you were going to write in, and I love the fact that it's a good point. The truth is, if you know they're bad contracts, you don't think the hockey GMs know them. But why would they want bad?
You got to remember that. Yes, exactly.
Why would they want bad contracts?
Yep.
Now, Armia's playing really well right now. He really is. But I mean, I haven't seen that enough consistency. Brennan, he earned every.
I hate talking about this because I love the guy. I love the player he was.
Yes.
It's just a tough situation there. And that's a good point by you, Pitch. It's one thing to our listeners and viewers there right now, too, as this day goes on and people are still trying to concoct trade proposals in your mind, or maybe you'll tweet them out or something. Try to put yourself in the position of the GM of the team that you're not cheering for, that you're proposing that team does a trade with. Always remember to do that because, like Pierre just said, well, of course the other GMs are looking at it saying, yeah, that contract is brutal. I can't take that on. So you got to factor those things in. I always try, even when I'm as a writer, I always try to study what's going on with the teams that I'm going to talk about to make sense of what potential trades could be, because you want to look at it from the other perspective as well.
I remember a general manager talking to me about a potential trade. And he said, I'm going to take player A and player B, and I'm going to have to give up player C. And I said, why would you give up player C when you know that player A and player B have really bad contracts? And player C might last longer than A and B. Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
And he said, I don't know. I just want to mix it up a little. I'm like, I'm not sure that's a good reason.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Sometimes that happens, my man.
Yep, it does. It does. Good stuff. All right. Well, listen, we appreciate you all tuning in on this trade deadline day, crazy day. And we apologize we can't be on longer, but we will recap everything on Monday here in the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. A couple things before we get off, of course. I want to mention, of course, our wonderful sponsors, Manscaped. You can go over there right now, and I'm going to spare you the St. Paddy's Day read right now, but you could go over to manscaped.com right now and use the code ITEST for 20% off and free shipping. That's at manscaped.com/ITEST for 20% off and free shipping. And, of course, Pierre, these Factor meals, I gave one to my mom, and she loved them. She's on board now. She's going to sign up for them. So we keep turning people on. So I suggest all our viewers and listeners out there, we're not simply saying this. Like Pierre and I don't know if you can tell, we're pretty straightforward. We're going to tell it like it is.
Yeah, very straightforward.
So not that we would say that the meal stunk, but we wouldn't exactly endorse it as heavily as we are. And we wouldn't be dishing it off to people trying to see what they think. And it's unanimous. Everyone that I introduce Factor to right now, it really, they all love it. I haven't heard one complaint yet, Pierre, and I know you're the same.
100%, I'm the same, and really grateful for their support. Same thing with Manscaped. The Factor meals are legit, and all the add-ons are too. I wish I would have had a Factor meal today, actually, at the rink.
Did you bring them on the road, Pierre?
What's that?
Did you bring one on the road?
Oh, I didn't. We're out. I'm out. And
okay.
And
we'll get more for you. All right,
Uh,
so head over to factormeals.com/itest50 and use the code itest50 to get 50% off. Again, that's itest50 at factormeals.com/itest50. And of course, a reminder too, next week, less than a week away now, Pierre, a week from yesterday, we will be at Hurley's Irish Pub, 1225 Crescent Street at 4 p.m. Eastern, broadcasting live with our good friend Tony Marinaro. So if you're in the Montreal area, if you're coming up from Boston for the game or you're based in Montreal, come on by, join us at Hurley's, get ready for that game, and kick off St. Patrick's Day weekend with us. We're looking forward to that, Pierre. It should be a good time, and we'll probably have lots of trades to talk about throughout next week.
I'll be coming in hot from Pittsburgh, Mario Lemieux's fantasy camp. I'm heading
that's
in
gonna
there
be awesome.
Sunday. Visiting with all the great campers I have there on Sunday, watching the Penguins and the Edmonton Oilers. And then we skate on Sunday night there, first night on the ice. And then all week until Thursday. And then I'll be coming in hot from Boston, driving up from Boston on Thursday morning early. So,
And then tell them what you're doing right after that, Pierre, on Thursday night.
what's that now?
And then on Thursday night, you're driving on to Lake Placid, right?
Yeah, I'm going to drive to Lake Placid and then on to Colgate for the first round, the quarterfinal round of the ECA season, then back up to Lake Placid for the
Pierre, I'm telling you, if YouTube didn't whack us for the copyright infringement, the show song, just in honor of you, would be "I've Been Everywhere, Man, I've Been." It would be Johnny Cash.
You know what? I wouldn't trade this for anything. You know, for all the years
love it.
on the road, I'm just so grateful that my voice supports me. Honest to goodness, I'm so grateful because, you wake up in different hotels sometimes and the beds stink or the water's not always hot or whatever. But when you get to the rink, you're like, this is awesome.
I love it.
No, it's awesome. It's really awesome. So
There
I'm
you
grateful.
go.
I'm grateful. Really grateful.
I'm glad to work with you because you're one of the best ambassadors for the game. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. We'll talk to you Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.